All right, get ready because today we are diving deep into Norse mythology.
Ooh, exciting.
We're going to be taking a look at some excerpts from an analysis of Javier Tapia's book, Mitología Vikinga, El Camino of Valhalla.
Sounds fascinating.
I think it's going to be a really thrilling journey.
Yeah, using mythology as a way to understand a culture.
Exactly. Their beliefs, their worldview, all of that.
Absolutely. And Tapia really highlights the importance of Odin and Loki.
Right. Like the big players in Norse mythology.
Yeah, they're more than just characters. They really embody the forces at play in the Norse understanding of the cosmos.
Okay, so Odin is the all-father, the one who's always searching for knowledge.
Exactly. And he represents so much. Wisdom, war, poetry, even death.
Wow, he's kind of a big deal.
He is, and Tapia talks about how Odin was willing to sacrifice anything for knowledge.
Say even his eye.
To drink from the well of wisdom.
Yes, that's right.
That's commitment, I'll tell you.
Right. And then you have Loki, the trickster.
Bringer, right.
Exactly. He's always shape-shifting, playing pranks, and basically setting a lot of the events in motion.
Yeah, he's like the catalyst for change, even for Ragnarok.
Which is the end of the world.
That's right.
Okay, so you've got this tension between Odin and Loki, order and chaos.
It's this really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and it plays out on a cosmic scale.
And not just with the gods, but across all 9 realms.
Okay, now you're talking about Yggdrasil,
The world tree.
which connects everything.
Asgard, Midgard, Jotunheim.
The realm of the giants, spooky.
Right. It's this image of interconnectedness.
So it's not just a tree, it's like a map of the Norse cosmos.
You got it. It's how they saw the universe, everything connected.
This is making me think about, like, our own world.
How so?
Well, like, we're always discovering new connections in ecosystems.
And even in social networks, everything's linked.
It's like that, but on a cosmic scale.
And that interconnectedness is tied to the concept of fate.
Word, right.
Yes, they believed everything was predetermined, even for the gods.
Whoa, okay, so even the gods don't have free will.
Not in the way we typically think about it.
So where does that leave humans?
Well, Tapia explains that we are also subject to weird.
So we're just along for the ride.
Not exactly. Think of it like a river.
Okay, I'm listening.
Warden sets the course of the river, but you can choose how to navigate it.
So, like, I can paddle upstream or go with the flow?
Exactly. You have some agency within the predetermined path.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
It's a nuanced concept.
Yeah.
And it brings us to another element. Runes.
Yes, runes. More than just an alphabet.
Right. They were used for writing, but they had this deeper significance.
Like magic.
In a way, they were seen as symbols with power.
Okay, so not just letters, but like keys to something else.
That's a good way to put it. They could unlock knowledge, connect with the cosmos.
This is reminding me of Odin's sacrifice for knowledge.
Hanging from Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights.
Yeah, to gain the wisdom of the rune.
Exactly. It shows how highly they valued knowledge.
And the sacrifices they were willing to make for it.
It makes you think about our unpursuit of knowledge.
What we're willing to give up to learn and grow.
That's a powerful question.
So we've talked about Odin, Loki, Yggdrasil, runes, weird.
A lot of ground covered.
What else is hiding in this world of Norse mythology?
Oh, there's so much more. We've only just begun. It's amazing how Norse mythology is just full of these incredible creatures.
Yeah, and they're not just like monsters, right?
Not at all. They represent different forces, different parts of their worldview.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, think about elves. Tapia talks about the difference between light and dark elves.
Okay, so like the good elves and the bad elves.
Not necessarily good and bad, but different aspects of nature.
So like light elves are connected to like forests and beauty.
Exactly, the kind of magical, ethereal beings we see in fantasy.
But then the dark elves represent the more shadowy parts of nature.
Right, the dangers, the unknowns, the things that can hurt you.
I guess that makes sense, especially for the Vikings living in a harsh environment.
Exactly. Nature can be beautiful, but also dangerous.
Okay, so elves are all about nature. What about other creatures?
Well, there are the dwarfs, the master craftsmen.
Ah, the ones who live underground.
Yes, and they forge weapons and treasures.
Like Thor's hammer.
Precisely. They represent skill, industry, a connection to the earth.
It's like they're tapping into something deep within the earth.
Right. And then there are the giants, embodying raw power.
The ones who are always fighting the gods.
Exactly. They represent the untamed forces of nature. Chaos versus order.
Okay, so we've got elves, dwarfs, giants, all playing their roles.
It's like this intricate web of relationships and conflicts.
It sounds really complex, like a whole ecosystem of mythical beings.
That's a great way to put it, and these interactions drive the myths.
It's like they're all part of this grand cosmic drama.
And speaking of drama, there's another important place, Valhalla,
Valhalla, the Hall of Warriors.
where they feast and fight for eternity,
The Valkyries bring the fallen warriors there.
the ones who die bravely in battle.
So for the Vikings, dying in battle wasn't a bad thing.
No, it was seen as honorable, the best way to die.
You get to go to Valhalla, keep fighting, that's wild.
It was a reflection of their culture, their values.
I can't even imagine thinking about death that way.
It's hard for us to grasp, but for them, it was a source of motivation.
To face death with courage, knowing you'll go to Valhalla.
It makes you wonder how it affected their actions in battle.
Did they fight more fiercely? Were they less afraid?
It's fascinating to think about.
But this all ties back to that concept of fate, warrior.
It's a question that has puzzled people for centuries.
If everything is predetermined, do we even have a choice?
It's a really complex idea. Tapia explores different interpretations.
Okay, so remind me, how did the Norse reconcile fate and free will?
They acknowledged the power of weird, but also believed in agency.
So, we're back to that river analogy.
Exactly. Weird sets the course, but you can navigate it.
So we have some control, even within the predetermined path.
It's about finding that balance, accepting what is, but also taking action.
That's pretty deep. I'm starting to see how this all connects.
And this acceptance of fate is reflected in everything they did.
How they lived, how they fought, how they died.
And that leads to another interesting element, ethical dilemmas.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, think about Loki. His actions raise questions about right and wrong.
Like, is it okay to deceive people, even if it leads to good outcomes?
Exactly. These myths force us to think about morality, consequences.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to our own values.
And that's what makes Norse mythology so compelling. It makes us think.
So we've covered creatures, Valhalla, fate, even ethics.
There's still so much more to explore.
I'm ready. What else is out there in this epic saga?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already.
We've explored the 9 realms, met some amazing creatures, and even faced Ragnarok head-on.
Not to mention those tricky concepts of weird and the ethical dilemmas woven into these ancient tales.
It feels like we've barely scratched the surface.
There's always more to uncover, right? Absolutely. And Tapia reminds us that we've only just begun to explore the runes.
Ah, the runes, those mysterious symbols.
We talked about their use in writing and magic.
But there's more to them than that, isn't there?
Exactly. Each rune has a deeper symbolic meaning.
So they're not just letters, they're like little bundles of meaning.
Think of them as keys to understanding the Norse worldview.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk me through it.
Well, let's take the rune Fehu, for example.
A one that represents wealth and prosperity, right?
Yes, but it's not just about having stuff. It's about the responsibility that comes with abundance.
That's a powerful message, especially in today's world.
We're always told to accumulate more, but Fehu reminds us that true wealth comes with a sense of responsibility.
So it's not just about getting, it's about what you do with what you have.
Exactly. And then there's Thurisaz, the rune of the storm.
Oh, that sounds intense.
It represents both the destructive power of the storm and its ability to clear the way for new growth.
It's like those fierce storms that sweep through the fjords.
They can be terrifying, but they also bring renewal, a fresh start.
So it's about recognizing that challenges can also be opportunities.
Precisely. And that's what's so fascinating about studying the runes.
They give us these insights into how the Vikings saw the world.
Their values, their beliefs, their understanding of life and death.
And it's not just about runes and symbols, there's a whole cast of characters.
Oh yes, we've talked about Odin and Loki.
But what about Thor, the god of thunder? Or Freya, the goddess of love and beauty?
These figures weren't just gods and goddesses, they were embodiments of human experiences.
So they represented different ways of being in the world, different aspects of human nature.
Exactly. Thor with his strength and protection, Freya with her love and magic.
It's almost like they were role models, sources of inspiration for the Vikings.
It makes you wonder how these stories shaped their understanding of themselves and their place in the cosmos.
So after all this, after this deep dive into Norse mythology, what's the most important thing for our listeners to take away?
That's a tough one. There's so much to learn from these myths.
What's the one thing that really stands out to you?
I think it's about finding the courage to face our own Ragnarok
Our own personal challenges, our own moments of crisis.
Exactly. Life throws us curveballs. It's inevitable.
But we can face them with the same strength and resilience as those Viking warriors.
Maybe it's also about embracing the duality of existence,
The light and shadow, the good and the bad.
recognizing that it's all part of life, and finding a way to live in balance with those opposing forces.
And of course, we can't forget the importance of seeking knowledge.
To be curious, to explore, to never stop learning.
To channel our inner Odin, right?
Exactly. To be willing to make sacrifices, to push ourselves beyond our comfort zones in pursuit of wisdom.
Those are some powerful lessons. I think we've all learned a lot today.
And remember, the journey doesn't end here.
There's always more to discover.
Norse mythology is full of hidden depths waiting to be explored.
So keep digging, keep questioning, and keep that Viking spirit alive.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating adventure.